origins of money is critical to understand why this problem persists, where it started, how it's evolved, and why it continues to be a problem in our lives today. Most people have no idea what money is, how it works, how it's created, where it comes from, who created it, and we all live with our own little ideas of what money is, where it comes from. It all depends who told you at what point in time and what lies you swallowed. So let's put everything you've ever heard about money aside and actually get to the bottom of what money is, where it comes from, and its true origins. How and when did it get so bad? We have to go to the Sumerian text. The oldest written record of human history that we have today remains that still. And we read very clearly in the Sumerian kings lists, when the kingdom was lowered to earth from heaven, was a time in human history where we suddenly see the appearance of the first royal bloodlines. We see the first appearance of these royal priests, these priest kings, suddenly appear. Seems to be around 6,000 years, 10,000 years ago. It's pretty open. And these priest kings suddenly appear. And they form the first small group of royal political elite bloodlines that took control of the world. They took control with the money and the fact that they suddenly owned all the land. Out of nowhere, these royal bloodlines appeared. When royalty was, where kingdom was lowered to earth from heaven. What did these first priest kings do? The first thing they started doing is to create money. This is an example of the oldest form of money that was ever created. It's a 4,000-year-old bill of exchange. These first priest kings were one of the very few people that knew how to write and read, and their scribes in their temples were the ones that would scribe and create these clay tablets that were these ancient bills of exchange. What's fascinating about this is that 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years later, the banking industries of today still create money out of thin air, exactly the same way that these first priest kings did in their banks, their temples, except today they do it on paper. All those years ago they did it on clay. So when a fire came, these clay tablets survived and sometimes even got stronger. But the paper we have today is just absolutely worthless. It's all smoke and mirrors. All this money created out of thin air. So what we realize that all these first priest kings suddenly owned all the land. They also were the first bankers, and the temples were the first banks. And that's where they started creating this money out of thin air as a tool of enslavement. This is the key thing that you have to get into your head. Money was maliciously introduced at this point in human history. Maliciously introduced as a tool of enslavement. Money did not evolve out of thousands of years of barter and trade, as most of us have been told. That is a lie. That is part of the propagation of the lie. So we somehow justify the use of money because most of us believe that money has always been there. It's always been part of humanity for as long as we've been around. That's the lie. It is a complete tool of control. In fact, very recent archaeological discoveries, surprisingly, to me, and when the archaeologists revealed this, they didn't realize they were actually undermining the banks. So it just shows you how the compartmentalization of knowledge and information at the universities sometimes backfires on them. When the archaeologists suddenly start sharing that, oh, it's now there's evidence that ancient civilizations did not use barter and trade. They lived in these communities that provided everything for themselves, and they did not barter. There's no evidence of bartering and trading at all. And you go, wow, isn't that amazing? They had no money, they didn't barter and trade. How did they survive? How did they buy stuff? Central banks, global control. Banking families is the largest organized crime syndicate in the world. The banking families of today are pretty much the descendants of these ancient royal bloodlines. And this is why they have absolute control. Because it's not something that was initiated yesterday, or 10 years ago, or 100 years ago, or 500 years ago, or even 1,000 years ago. This is something that's been initiated thousands of years ago. It's thousands of years of control and manipulation. This is why there's such absolute control over our planet and over all of humanity. Because of these banking families. You know who they are. Don't need to remind you. The important one to point out, however, are the Carnegies, because the Carnegies, together with the Rockefellers, are probably the two families that are responsible for our current education system, which is part of the dumbing down system of humanity. Very important point we're going to come back to. And unless we deal and address the education system, we'll forever keep enslaving ourselves, because we continue enslaving our children. We are all a product of the education system we come out of. Look at us today, how dumbed down and manipulated we are. We sit in rooms like this trying to figure out what's going on. And the education system is part of that problem. So we need to deal with it as soon as possible. Remember that these banking families own all the central banks. They control this complete supply of money in the world, everywhere. And the key thing here as well, that some people still haven't figured out, is that the banks control the governments. It's not the other way around. Every central bank of every country controls the government of that country. The government has no say over the central bank. Please get this into your head. If you think any other ways, you'll continue being confused about why things are so screwed up. The World Bank, European Central Bank, the IMF, World Trade Organization, Federal Reserve Bank of the USA. These are the Rothschild's agents that started the Federal Reserve in 1913. Incidentally, if you're not aware of this yet, one of the false flag events of 1913 was the sinking of the Titanic. What was happening in Europe, there was a huge opposition towards the establishment of the Federal Reserve in the United States. So what these banking families did very cleverly, they said, oh, okay, well, you don't like that. Well, so why don't you come to New York and let's have a big meeting and discuss this? And they put them all on one ship, and they sent the ship into the ocean. Wow. And that's how they dealt with the problem. Just got rid of the opposition.
Which was the Astor family, I believe.
Well, so this is how they deal with these situations. They just remove the obstacles. Every single time there's a little obstacle, they get rid of it. This is the mother of them all, the Bank of England, South African Reserve Bank, which is the golden goose that keeps laying the golden eggs. What I found fascinating when I downloaded this picture, suddenly realized it looks like a giant bird with its claws at the bottom. Look at that. I don't know if you see what I'm seeing. It's like a big bird sitting upright with its claws at the bottom and its wings sticking out. My imagination running wild. A Reserve Bank of Australia, Reserve Bank of India, and so it goes. Every central bank of the world belongs to these families. And they're all controlled from this place here in Basel, Switzerland, the Bank for International Settlements. This is where they send out instructions as to what each bank should be doing, what they can and cannot do. Remember that banks bail out countries. If ever there was a clear evidence that banks control the governments and control the countries, it's because they bail them out. How is it possible that a bank could bail out a country? It's an insane idea. And I think, didn't that happen in Ireland? That Ireland was bailed out? How is that possible? You've got people run the country. The country belongs to its people and to the government that's supposed to be elected as the servant of the people. So how can a bank, which is a little company, it's a piece of paper, how can a bank bail out a country and all its people? It's an insanity that we need to wake up, realize, and prevent from ever happening again. Because all that is, it's more enslavement of the people. People have to work harder to pay back the debts of the banks. And incidentally, that's what happened in Iceland, as you may or may not know. When the Icelandic people realized that they were being basically enslaved to pay back all the debts created by the banks, that's when they started throwing stones at the government, and the parliament suddenly said, okay, great, well, we're not going to settle the debts of the banks, they must settle it themselves. And some of the bankers were prosecuted and sent to jail. Well, let me tell you what, that was just a farce. That entire thing in Iceland was a farce, because you cannot underestimate the depravity or the depths of darkness that these bankers will go to. They will eat their children, they will sacrifice their families to keep control. Do not underestimate what these people are capable of. Okay, and that's exactly what they did in Iceland. They sacrificed, it looks like they sacrificed a few of their bankers. They got a slap on the wrist, went to jail for a year or whatever it was, and that's it. And then everything carried on as usual. And then just recently, the game was given away. I think it's about a year ago now. A new article came out about Iceland, and once again, everybody got very excited. They said, oh, great, Iceland is showing us the way again. When the people in Iceland started waking up to the fact that banks are making money out of thin air. And they said, well, this can't continue. And the government said, okay, you're right, it can't continue. We're going to stop this. No more banks. Banks are no longer allowed to create money out of thin air. We will reserve that right only for the central bank. Oh, great. You know, just put all the eggs in one basket and only the central bank can create money out of thin air. So banks create money out of thin air. It's as simple as that. They can keep on creating it, make as much as they want, because they've retained the right to do that. The other critical thing to realize, and I had to learn this the hard way from going up against the banks in South Africa. Firstly, in the Supreme Court of Johannesburg for 4 years against Standard Bank, and then taking it up to all the banks, basically creating a case against all the banks, including the South African Reserve Bank, taking it to the Constitutional Court. And guess what the Constitutional Court replied to me? It's actually on the Ubuntu Party website. You can see the letter. They said, you have no prospect of success. That was their response to me. Our Constitutional Court, the highest court of human rights, they predetermined that I had no prospect of success against the South African Reserve Bank. That clearly tells us, as Greenspan said to one of the interviewers several years ago, when he said that the Federal Reserve operates outside of the legal system of the United States. They cannot be prosecuted. All the central banks operate outside of the legal system. You cannot prosecute the central banks. That is why the Constitutional Court told me that I have no prospect for success. All wars are bankers' wars. You should know by now that pretty much every conflict in history was created by these families, and that's how they keep people divided and separated. It never stops. This book, as you may or may not know, The Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, clearly outlines how the governments do this and how the bankers control these setups. Until the year 2000, these countries had their own private central banks. I mean, their own the state banks that were not part of the Rothschild global banking empire. And you can see how this has changed since the year 2000. You can just see if something is out of their control, they just invade the country, take it over, and that's what it's all about. So all these wars are bankers' wars. It's got nothing to do with anything else. It's about the control of the finances. You know, the whole thing with Syria. What is that all about? Our countries are corporations. I know this is getting laborious, but this is, again, let me remind you, this is just a foundation to remind us of how screwed up things are and how we cannot continue like this, how we have to do something completely different. So keep this as revision, not as dark, horrible, depressing thoughts. This is enlightening, liberating thoughts, because we're recognizing the shackles that enslave us. We now see them. And that is the most important thing for us to get through. Our countries are corporations. Here's a perfect example of, there you can see Anglo-American at the top, and below it, Government of the Republic of South Africa. This is an extract from the Securities Exchange, where companies are listed in the USA. And it says, can you see companies with names matching South Africa? You can go do this yourself. Go find any country or anything you're looking for. And there you can see Lehman Brothers, then Old Mutual, South African giant insurance company, and then below it, Republic of South Africa. And you go further down, second from the bottom, Standard Bank of South Africa. And anything with the word standard in it is a Rockefeller company, like Standard Oil, Standard Bank, and so it goes. So I was up against Standard Bank for 4 years in the Supreme Court in Johannesburg. And if you're not aware of that, I lost the case, obviously, because you cannot win against the banks. But what I did learn from that is that the banks accept payment in the forms of bills of exchange and promissory notes, which I bit my tongue when that was volunteered by the advocate in court. It gets paid 60,000 Rand a day. And And at the end of it, when I lost and the judgment was handed down against me and I lost my house in an auction and they slapped me with all the costs and the bills of about R1,000,000, I did what they told me. I created my own promissory notes and I paid the bank with about R1,000,000 with 4 consecutive promissory notes, which have now been accepted and has created a legal precedent in South Africa. But people don't know how to use that. It's very complicated, and you need to know how to create the promissory note and how to deliver it. So I've showed how to create the promissory note. They don't have to do that. I've done that work, but it's the delivery that people always somehow mess up. Because they think they take it to the bank and give it to the teller. No, that's not how promissory notes and bills of exchange work.
Is that something global, is it?
Yeah.
Can that be done anywhere? Doesn't matter where you are, you can...
It is a global thing, and I know that in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, there are a bunch of guys that have paid over £8 million in promissory notes. And I wish they would share that with the people of Ireland. I have lost contact with them, unfortunately, and we do need to find them somehow. But I had about a half an hour Skype call with them, and they told me the whole history, what they did and how they did it. And I need to put a call out on the internet for these guys to share their information with the people of Ireland.
Michael, in your meeting on Saturday will be John Witterick, who's of Get Out of Debt Free, and he has the absolute most up-to-date, latest information on that.
Yes.
And he's now clocked up something like 30 million paid back.
Thank you.
With the use of promissory notes.
Yes.
John will be at that.
Yes, John Witterick from Get Out of Debt Free. That's exactly what these guys told me. They said they used his promissory note, Get Out of Debt Free. And just to tell you quickly what happened, because this might give you some ideas. The promissory note that I use in South Africa is fiat currency, because our money doesn't say I promise to pay or nothing like that. It's just a piece of paper with logos on it. Same as the euro. And what's important to realize is that once you have fiat currency like the euro or the rand, you have to change things on the promissory note. In the UK, Northern Ireland, they use the pound still says, I promise to pay. And what happened is they paid, whoever it was they paid with the promissory notes, and they were taken to court. The judge looked at the promissory note and said he finds no fault with the promissory note, which is really interesting. By a judge. Clearly he was not on the payroll of the bankers. And then the bank said, oh, well, if that's the case, then they must deliver on their promise, because it says, I promise to pay. And they said, fine. But then it must apply to both parties. And then we need you to deliver £20,000 of sterling silver, because that's what you're promising to pay us, because that's what it says on your money. At which point the judge said, well, you must deliver. And the bank withdrew, because they don't have £20,000 of sterling silver to deliver to these guys. And they withdrew and never restarted the case again. And since then, they told me more than £8 million that has been settled in promissory notes. That's interesting when the law that they created starts to backfire on the people that created it. And this is what's starting to happen. Some more examples of countries registered as corporations. Keep in mind that it's every country, every state, every province, every city, every jail. Everything is incorporated in the world today, because that's how they control it. Through the legal systems that have been created, the legal system we have is the laws for corporations, not laws for people. Okay, this is really important. This is why corporations have higher laws or more protection than living, breathing human beings. And we get to education. Remember that money controls the education system completely and utterly. Every aspect of it. Our schools are indoctrination camps, brainwashing our children to follow orders, bow to authority, never talk back. Do those look like places of creativity, where children's minds should be expanded? I don't think so. Exactly. They look like prisons. And that's exactly what they have become. Prisons for our minds, our children's minds, and they turn into us. So we've got to stop that cycle. And it's a great place, tool of manipulation. It destroys our ability to think for ourselves, because that's not promoted at all. It's a great place to hide knowledge and information, the education system. The reason I say this is anything that's invented or discovered in universities belongs to the university. So when you find a music professor in 2011 from Skidmore College, USA, that in a TED Talk showed live video footage how sound frequencies that they found destroys cancer cells and heals people of cancer. You would expect by now this would be put into the pharmaceutical world and we'd all be curing cancer with sound frequencies. This poor guy thought he was going to win a Nobel Prize. He was probably told to shut up and go away. I'd be surprised if he still has his job at Skidmore College as a music professor. And this is what they do. Anything that's discovered at a university gets hidden because it belongs to those that fund the universities and the syllabus. Remember who funds the research laboratories. It's always the money. Follow the money and you'll start seeing how education is a complete tool of manipulation and control. The main objective of our education is to create a future obedient labor force. We come out of school and university, we can't bake bread, we can't grow food, we can't build a rocket, we can't do anything. But we have a certificate. And with that certificate, we go looking for a job. So there's just constant repetition propagating the same cycle of control. So, we don't need your education. Thank you, Pink Floyd. We don't need your mind control. Teacher, leave our kids alone. We need a whole new education system where we actually teach our children true skills for life, not give them pieces of paper to go looking for jobs. Something that you can actually put to use in your life, something you can do. What are the needs of people? What do we need? We need water, food, shelter, healthcare, friends, love, tables, chairs, technology, wharf, everything you can imagine. The one thing we don't need in that equation is money. It's not on that list. It's never on that list. And money does not make the world go round, as some people keep regurgitating to try and enslave us all over again. The world goes around all by itself very nicely. It doesn't need money to go around. And these are the little hooks and poison pills that have been thrown into our reality that we keep regurgitating ourselves. Oh, money makes the world go round. Don't say things like that, because it doesn't. That's what keeps tripping us up, these kinds of little hurdles. Money does nothing. People do everything. This is one of my most favorite expressions that I've started saying. And I'd like you to remember this. Money does nothing. You put $1 trillion over there, it's going to do absolutely nothing. It's going to take people to get up off their asses and go grow some food, plant some seeds, develop the technology, solve the mathematical equation. Money can't do that. It keeps getting in the way and creating a hurdle and an obstacle of people reaching their goals or following their passion or their life dreams. Money always gets in the way. What is spectacular to realize that every day 7.5 billion people wake up and we go and do something. We build, transport, we carry, create, invent, we grow things, we dream, paint, sculpt, sing, spin, cook, dance. We create so much on a daily basis, it boggles the mind. We can't imagine how much stuff we create and what we do every day that goes by. And yet, most of us don't have access to the things that we've just done and created because it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to corporations or governments or somebody else. We never do it for ourselves. This is what needs to change, and that's why we're here today. Also to remind you that it is not the love of money, because some people still say, oh, money is not bad, money is not evil, it's the love of money. Money is just an energy, it's just an exchange. It's just an exchange of energy. No, stop saying that. That's part of the lie, it's part of the indoctrination. It's like we've been lobotomized to regurgitate the same lies. Money is the problem. It is the presence of money that creates the problem. So there's only one obvious thing we need to do, and that is, we cannot solve the problem with the same kind of thinking when we created the problem, remember? So we can't solve our problems using money. So the only thing we can do is to remove the money. Thank you, Batman. And the moment you say this, remove the money, like I said before, people go into cold sweat because they think you're going to take my money away, I'm going to not be able to buy food. That's not what I'm saying. saying we're going to create a system where we no longer need money. But the moment you say remove the money, all these questions start popping up. And I bet you this is what many of you are thinking, because I've been doing this for long enough. And these, what I call 13 frequently asked questions, are really fascinating, because let's just analyze what's going on here. And what I can tell you that these 13 frequently asked questions, and it continues here. My favorite one is human nature is to be lazy. Are you serious? Really? Is that how low you've stooped as a human being, that you think people are inherently lazy? No, they're lazy because they hate their job. They hate getting up 5 o'clock in the morning to walk in the rain or the snow, or ride a bicycle, or get on a disgusting subway to go to some stinking job that they hate, that they have to work 8 hours a day, spend 14 hours a day working, make just enough money to pay their rent, pay electricity, buy bread for their children and their families to survive, and at the end of the month repeat the same insanity again. No wonder people are lazy, because they hate their lives, they hate the prison system that they've been cast in. Laziness is a consequence of capitalism and the situation that we find ourselves in. People are not inherently lazy. What would you say the number one human nature is? It's to create, to express ourselves. That's what I've shared with many, many people, and there seems to be a consensus on that. The first thing that people want to do is to create. From the earliest moments in our childhood, we blow bubbles, we paint, we make shapes, we make sounds, we create things. We emulate what it is that we're a part of the great creation. But what's fascinating about these 13 frequently asked questions, it continues here. And you'll start seeing that it's just a repetition of the same subject. This is a compilation of 11 years of work and hundreds of thousands of questions that have come at me since I started talking about a world without money, or contributionism. Hundreds of thousands of questions that can be filtered down to 13 most frequently asked questions. What this tells us is that we're all equally wired. We're all equally poisoned. And we're worried about the same things over and over again. And what it also shows us is that in a world without money, all we have to do is solve 13 problems and we can live in paradise. And we know how to solve these 13 problems. We're going to solve them here today. Or you're going to solve them. I'm not going to solve them for you. You're going to answer your own questions. I'm not going to have to tell you anything by the time we leave here. In a world with money, an endless amount of problems that our politicians cannot solve with all the money in the world, we have millions of problems. In a world without money, we seem to have 13 problems that we need to overcome. So already it's telling us that a world without money is a lot better than a world with money, just from the reaction of people. Just let you peruse a few of those. And by the time we leave here, you will be laughing at these questions, because they're so obvious and so silly, and most of them do not belong on a questionnaire because they're actually out of place. All our lives we are told that competition is good. Competition is not good. Competition is possibly the worst thing that could have happened to humanity. It destroys lives and families, rips everything apart. It sets up systems of control and creates scarcity. That's what competition does. Competition is not good. And what we're going to do here is just show how easy it is to turn these things around by simply switching that one simple little philosophy. Instead of competition, where we destroy and rip each other apart, we start cooperation and collaboration. Because only through cooperation and collaboration can we start creating abundance. And we realize that out of unity comes infinite diversity and abundance. I'm going to just take this a bit further, then we're going to take a break before we come back and go to the plan of action. But out of unity comes infinite diversity and abundance. What does that mean? Well, our bodies are actually perfect examples of that. We have trillions of cells in our bodies. All of us, trillions of cells that all come from that first primordial cell. These cells have multiplied and divided, and they grow and grow until they form this community of cells that make up our body. A community of trillions of cells. Do our cells in our body fight each other for control of our body? No, you'd be dead. And even when the cells gang up to make clusters of cells, or gangs of cells called the liver cells, or the heart cells, or the muscle, or the gallbladder, or kidney cells, or brain cells, these gangs of specialized cells still don't fight each other. They work together for the benefit of the whole community of cells, your body. And this is a perfect example of unity within community. Even if you've got specialized groups within your community, all working for the benefit of the whole community. There can be no better example than our body to show how we should look at our communities. Extensions of ourselves, extensions of our families, extensions of our communities. When you wake up in the morning, go to breakfast, your daughter comes down, has some toast and some orange juice, your son has some cheese and some scrambled eggs, and your wife has some milk and whatever. At which point do you say, daughter, that's £5 for the, this and that, and my son, that's going to be £2 for this, and darling, that's, what did you have? Rice Krispies, and oh my God, that's going to be £7. We don't do that, right? It's our family. We look after our families. And even if you take it further to meeting someone at a pub and inviting them for a barbecue at your house on the weekend, at which point do you say, oh, here's a bill for £100 for the barbecue and the beer that you drank? We don't do that. We invite people and we love to share. We're creatures that love to share. And yet the end of the weekend comes and Monday morning arrives. We put on our suits, we get in our cars, and we turn into these monster machines that go out there, and all we want to do is make money, make money. We don't share anything with anyone, and just like, how much can I make today? Oh my goodness, it's 12 o'clock already, I've done nothing yet. So it's like, no wonder most of us are damaged and we psychologically messed up, because we live this duality. One part of us wants to share and give everything away, and the other half, we have to become these machines that charge everyone for everything we do. We become psychotic, split personalities. So what this means really is that we've got to start treating our community and the world as our family. Treat it like your body. A world without money, you'll realize there's no crime, no envy, no gluttony, no greed, no hoarding, no hierarchy, and especially no hunger. The moment we remove money from society, all these dark aspects of society simply disappear. And you'll see very quickly how this happens. At this point, I'd like to take a break to go and recharge your batteries, and we're going to come back and implement the plan of action. How we're going to remove ourselves from the slavery, and from now on it's only good news. This is where the healing really begins. Thanks. So, I don't know, 20 minutes, however we feel we need to recharge. See you back a bit later. All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope that you also had a whiskey. It's all downhill from here, really. This is the good news part. No more dark, sinister stuff. We've dealt with that. We know who we are, where we come from, and why we're in this mess. Now let's get to the good news. We have to start getting involved in two areas: community development and political action. Now, the question is, when you start talking about politics, a lot of people freak out. Oh, politics is dirty business. I don't want to get into politics. Oh, it's terrible. No. And we've got to remind people, it's all about the people. It's about the people. Politics is supposed to serve the people. Politics is the tool that destroys our lives every day, every year. Ignoring politics does not solve the problem. Sitting on the fence does not solve the problem. Saying, I'm not going to vote, doesn't solve the problem. You're just handing over your rights to the people that will use politics to keep destroying your lives. Politics is supposed to serve us. It's supposed to be the aspect of our life that delivers to us what we choose for ourselves. That's why we appoint our leaders into position to be our servants, through politics. So, you cannot separate politics from our way of life. It should be the instrument that brings to us what we want and what we choose for ourselves. Most of us are so lobotomized and so brainwashed and damaged by the system that we've forgotten this. So I need to remind you of this. Stop being scared of politics. And let's use politics as a tool to speed up and fast track us into this place of utopia, this utopian paradise that we all want to create for ourselves. We appoint our governments to serve us, not to tell us what to do. Most of us have forgotten this, and we need to remind ourselves and everyone around us of this. The other important thing to remind ourselves of is that the government is not your friend. If you think that the government is going to do anything to help us or help you or your families, you're deluded. The government, you already know, answers to a high authority, and that high authority is the central bank. That's the hierarchical order. The government is not there to help us. It doesn't matter who the president is replaced by. It's just another puppet that will follow the orders of the central banks. This is how it works. So, what are we going to do about this? It's up to us to do something about it. Realize the problem and deal with it. On the 7th of May, 2014, I ran for president in South Africa. I know it's funny, but it's true. We ended up with about 1 million followers. I know that because I've got their names and cell phone numbers on this laptop right here. By the time we finished over there, and on that blue screen, all the results came up. The Ubuntu party ended up with about just less than 5,500 votes from 1 million followers that said we will vote Ubuntu. I realized that the entire national election system is completely and utterly fraudulent and rigged. Absolutely. It is a predetermined, decided outcome. And the reason I also know this is because at one stage, one of the ladies sitting in front of me at all those tables, you can see each table is belongs to a political party. And by the way, by the time we finished the elections, every one of those tables had an Ubuntu book on their table. They came past our table and they would sort of walk past and look at the books that I had at the front of our table, and they'd walk past and go, and they'd come past again, and then they'd say, "Are you selling those?" And I go, "No, they're for free. Can I take one?" "Yeah." They would take one and they walk away and they'd come back, "Will you sign it for me?" And by the time we finished the whole election process, I walked around that entire big hall, and every political party had at least one of those books on their desk. So that's how we infiltrated the South African political arena with the Ubuntu philosophy, in a very weird way. But I didn't plan it, it just happened. But at one stage, the table in front of us, one of the ladies turned back and said to me, "Hey, Ubuntu, did you know that you got the most number of votes from the foreign votes outside of South Africa?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, I was an observer at the foreign vote count, and everyone was stunned. Ubuntu party got the largest number of votes, more than the ANC, the ruling party, the ANC." And I was absolutely stunned. And I thought, wow, all the work I've been doing outside of South Africa finally paid off. So the result from the foreign vote comes in, 28,000 votes. So now we're waiting. And we think, wow, 28,000 votes? I mean, we should get at least 8,000 or 10,000 of those votes. And goes to the machine. And so now we're waiting for the votes to come out. Took them 3 days to release the vote count. 3 days from 28,000 votes from foreign votes. When the votes finally came out, guess how many votes the Ubuntu party was allocated?
Probably not a lot.
28.
Oh, right.
Of the majority, where we had more than the ANC. So I realized at that stage, this entire thing, that's why it took them 3 days, because they were scratching their head. There's no way in 1,000,000 years they could release those results. A little Ubuntu party, no one's ever heard of us, and we get more votes from foreign voters in the ANC. This cannot be put out to the public. Because can you imagine what that would have done to the people around South Africa? If they saw that Ubuntu party, largest number of votes from outside of South Africa. That's a psychological message to everyone that we are a powerful force. They could not allow that to happen.
Did you challenge it?
Of course you can't challenge it. You can't challenge any of that. You're going to waste all your time, energy, money, your life will be completely sucked up in the legal process of challenging that stuff. All you got to do is accept it and realize what's going on here. What I did, it taught me what we should and should not do. And that's what we're leading to right now. But I had to go through this process to understand, learn about the political arena, understand how it works, be part of it, part of an election, to have that experience, to know how to handle it in the future. So the following year, we are very lucky and we participated in the UK elections. Because Paul Toussaint actually did the hard yards and he registered the Ubuntu Party in the UK, and we had representation in 2 constituencies, Stoke-on-Trent and Sutton Coldfield. Mark Slay and Paul Toussaint represented the Ubuntu Party, same philosophy, same plan of action, same manifesto as we had in South Africa the year before, and it also happened to be on the same date, 7th of May. They seem to like that date very much, somehow. And in the UK, in South Africa, our promise, this is national elections, remember, not local elections, national elections. We had a 7-point manifesto, and the first point was, in South Africa, that we're going to close down the Reserve Bank of South Africa and replace it with a People's Bank that issues money for the people, by the people, tax-free and interest-free. In the UK, the same message was sent out. We're going to close down the Bank of England and replace it with a People's Bank. And that's what we stand for all over the world. We're going to close down the central bank and replace it with a People's Bank. Because when you have a People's Bank and we issue our money for ourselves, we can issue it tax-free, interest-free, no taxes ever have to be paid on anything, because it is our money. It is not a private company or a corporation issuing our money for us through our government that has to pay back interest to a private corporation. That's the only reason why we pay taxes, interest, levies, fees on everything, and why central banks control our lives every single step of the way, because they control the governments. The moment we take that right away from them, they disappear, and we retain the right to create any amount of public works, community projects, anything we imagine, because we create our own money out of thin air, exactly the same way that the banks do it today. You need to understand this. This is why this is such a huge shift. People's banks versus private central banks. The People's Bank is not a final solution, but it is the first critical interim step to release the pressure, take the lid off the pressure cooker, free people up from the stress, the anxiety of survival, and give them the opportunity to move anywhere they choose in the country that they live. Because no matter where they go, whatever project or community project or activity they choose to start, they will get the money to do that. Because that's how you stimulate the economies of countries, with your own finances, your own money. And this is why all the wars in the past have been around preventing the people from doing that, where countries like the United States and many other countries have had their own people's banks or state banks. These private corporations infiltrate the countries and they overthrow the governments and install their own private banks to control the people. So you see the modus operandi here. So let's carry on with the good news. So our plan of action is changed and shifted completely. We are now looking at local municipal elections and just one elected mayor of a small little town or a small little municipality. I call it the Achilles heel approach. It is injecting a seed of consciousness into the political beast. That's how we view it now, and this is our plan of action, because it's the last thing that any one of these giant political parties will expect, that we take our focus away completely from the national elections and focus it on the smallest little towns and municipalities. Why? Because one elected mayor of a small town or municipality is infinitely more powerful and effective than 20 elected members of parliament. That one mayor can implement change instantly and immediately, as we are going to lay out and present here now. That one mayor can start the change within days and weeks of being elected. 20 members of parliament, all we're going to do is argue and squabble and shout at each other in parliament and have absolutely no effect. One mayor brings all the change that we imagine, and changes everything around us. So our motto has become, one small town can change the world. And that's what we're going to be focusing on in South Africa in 2016 elections. I just found out today that our elections are going to be on the 2nd of August. So when I leave London on Sunday, I'm going back home and my campaign starts. I'm going to be traveling around South Africa, meeting with more than 180 candidates that will be representing the Ubuntu Party in South Africa. So there might be a small number of people in this room, but let me remind you, do not ever underestimate the influence and the effect a small number of people can have on the majority. This is where the new way of thinking begins, in little rooms and little meetings like this. A unity consciousness recognition of what is possible and what we can do. And it starts with us and one small town. No more opposition, resistance, marches or violence. Those days are over. This is really important. The Ubuntu movement and the Ubuntu Party plan of action has shifted where we can no longer oppose or resist anyone. What we have to do is channel the energy that is being thrown at us and turn it into an energy that actually serves us. That's why we use the politics. We use the political platform to inject that virus or the seed of consciousness into the political beast. We're not opposing anyone. We're using it to our own benefit. We're using the money to our own benefit, the system to our own benefit, and this is how we change things. Very, very smoothly and a lot quicker than most people can realize. So our plan of action, very simply, is to win at least one municipality. And then the Ubuntu mayor starts to implement the plan of community participation, which is all about cooperation and collaboration. Our main campaign promise to the people of South Africa and any other country that we implement this is, very simply, free electricity. And this is a very critical thing, people. You all know that free electricity has been discovered and rediscovered many, many times by great minds and inventors. And it is one of the most important tools of control over humanity. The supply of electricity, the electric grid with which we are being controlled. Our plan of action is, as we win the first small town, the first thing we do is implement our own supply and our own source of electricity for that town. That's the point of departure. Now I'm going to talk you through as if we have won an election and we now implement this plan of action. So imagine it with me and see how this expands and how exciting and simple it is. So we win the election in a small town, and I'm going to use my little town as an example because it's a practical example. Ray has been there, he knows it, he can imagine it, and so can many of you. Imagine your own small towns when I talk about it. My town has 5,000 people in it. It's called Watervalboven. It's an old Paul Kruger town, and where the golden train disappeared. Or the train filled with gold disappeared, should I say. So, free electricity for all. And we make it very clear to people that it's from the rivers, the wind and sun. So they can understand it. They don't ask us, well, how are you going to create free electricity? We tell them. And everybody knows, oh yeah, we can get electricity from wind, rivers and sun. We don't have to explain anything. So it's a no-brainer. People get it, they understand it, and they go, yeah, we should have our own electricity. And I believe that in Ireland it's the same story. That electricity is a huge problem and a huge factor here. So, we'll change that. We'll talk to the big guy and change that. Yeah. And what do we do with this free electricity? The electricity becomes the tool of unity. At the moment, it's a tool of division and control. And once again, we take the tool of division and control and we use it as a platform to unite and unify the people. This is just a repetition of what we do. Constantly taking the things that are sent to destroy us, turn it around as a tool of liberation and a tool of unification. We initiate at the same time a number of community projects. We have identified 30 community projects in my town. How do we do this? Every town, every municipality gets money from government to run the towns, run the affairs of the town. I'm the mayor of the new town. I decide how to use the money. Because why? Because I've been elected by the people. How can we impose our own free electricity? We've just won the election that said we were going to impose our own free electricity. Okay, remind ourselves, the people are the highest authority of the land. We are implementing the will of the people. Often I get asked, well, who's going to give you permission to implement your own electricity? So, the people just gave me the permission. Who is higher authority than the people? We are the elected government of the people, and we're doing what the people asked us to do. We've been so lobotomized that we forget that. And we constantly keep looking for the government for permission. No, the government is supposed to serve the people. So now we're bringing back that notion into our communities and reminding ourselves and doing exactly what the people have voted for. Free electricity as a tool of unification, implementing community projects. I'm going to use examples once again. Our town gets about 3 million rand per month. Let's use your currency so it makes more sense. 3 million pounds per month. 3 million euros per month. Our town gets. With this, we set up we implement our free electricity, we get the best technology we can get. Once it's implemented and installed, it's free, it's ours. It doesn't belong to the government or the municipality or any private corporation. It belongs to the people of our town. And therefore it is free to the people of our town because we installed it for ourselves. Now, we take the rest of the money and we implement 30 community projects. Let's use the number 30 for now, because that's how many we've identified at this stage. Each community project gets set up with £50,000. That's what we started with. That's what we believe can kickstart it, and we start working this. But it's not just some haphazard project. Each project is managed by a master tradesman or a master craftsman that is specialized, whether it's a baker or a cheesemaker or a fish breeder or a farmer or whatever. So it's a master tradesman or craftsman that is taking control of that project, together with a project manager that makes sure that the project runs as smoothly as a well-oiled business machine. But this time, this business doesn't belong to a private corporation or the municipality. Once again, it belongs to all the people of the town, of your town, of our town. That changes everything. So we've got free electricity, our own supply. We've got 30 community projects, so we've started. And every month, each community project gets given £50,000. Our town gets £3 million a month. We've started 30 projects, and they're costing us £50,000 each. That's £1.5 million a month. We still have £1.5 million left from the monthly allocated amount, and we've started 30 community projects. Everything we do in those projects belong to the people. Now, this is where it starts to get really interesting. The next interesting and important thing we need to do is appoint a council of elders. And I often forget to say this, so I've had to work this in here to force me to remind myself, because people go, well, how are you going to make all these decisions? Because we appoint a council of elders. And I've been suggesting that it's 12 around 1, 13 people that make up this council. The most trusted and respected people in our town, not businessmen or politicians or anyone to do with money, people that you trust with your life, your granny or your whoever. And it is a very transparent process. And this council of elders becomes the guiding council or guiding group of people that looks after the interest of your community, of your town. When I say community, I mean our town. Okay. Very important to understand that no longer will the decisions be made by me, the mayor, or any of the politicians that have been previously making those decisions. Everyone gets free electricity as long as they contribute 3 hours per week to one of those community projects. In a town of 3,000 people, of 5,000 people, 3 hours a week, what have we just done?
That's a lot of man hours.
We have just turned our town into a very powerful labor force. All of us doing it willingly, together, cooperating. 15,000 hours of labor a week. That's a lot of labor force. No competition or no corporation or municipality could compete with us. Why? Because we're getting free labor force. Labor is always the most expensive part of any company, any business. We've just turned our little tiny town into a powerful corporation, and everything belongs to us in that little town. No private company, no municipality, no government. This is where it really starts to change, and everything you start seeing starts to work in our favor. What are the benefits? Everything we do is free to those that contribute 3 hours a week. Whether it's bread, milk, cheese, wood, whatever it is that we do. Everything that we do, you have access to. It doesn't mean that you have to work in the bakery to get bread. It means that as long as you contribute 3 hours a week, you get all of the things that we create in our community projects for free. And why is this possible? Because we don't just create as much as what we need. This is really, really important. We create at least 3 times as much as what we need, but I'm going to come back to that. What's important to realize that this is such a simple plan of action that even as a transitional phase, this can work immediately, because everyone has 3 hours a week. You can keep your job, you can still carry on working for the bank, or you can carry on selling insurance, or whatever it is that you do. You'll find 3 hours a week to contribute to one of those community projects. And everything starts to change very, very quickly, because we start creating so much abundance. As you'll see, it is impossible for us to imagine it in a current capitalist model. So transitional phase is taken care of, because often people get stuck and say, well, how do we move from here to there? This is how we move from here to there. Because all it takes is 3 hours a week, not 8 hours a day. 3 hours a week. Then the contributionism principle kicks in. Everything we do, whether it's growing potatoes, whether it's milk or bread, whatever we do as a community project, we calculate very effectively, very clearly, and we create or produce or build at least 3 times as much as what we need. And that's when everything changes. Why can we do that? Because we do it together for free. We choose to do that. Whether we create as much as what we need or 3 times as much, takes a little bit more effort. So, what does this achieve? 3 times is what we need. In the beginning, it's all about the money. We have to create as much money as we can for our town and our community so that we can keep expanding and growing our community projects. Eventually, those 2/3 extra are not for selling, are for sharing. In the beginning, it's all about selling the extra stuff that we don't have. Many people immediately jump to the conclusion, you create 3 times as much, it means we can give the rest away. No, that's the mistake. That is when you start creating a culture of dependency, and let me tell you, South Africa is a great example of that. 21 years of ANC rule, creating a culture of dependency, people just wanting things for free. What we do with those extra 2/3 that we don't need is we sell it to our neighboring towns and communities, but we sell it for a fraction of the price than any supermarket or Walmart or any other store sells it for. Why? Because we can. We can give it away for free if we wanted, but we're not going to. By selling it for a fraction of the cost that anyone else can, we have started to undermine and collapse the capitalist model. And there's nothing they can do about that. They cannot compete with us. Why? Because we have a powerful labor force of 5,000 people working together. When I was in Australia last year in Byron Bay, there was a guy sitting on the side. I was doing a full-day workshop there. There was a guy sitting on the side working on his computer, and he'd be like working on his computer, and every now and then he'd look up, watch me, and then shake his head and look down again, carry on working, and shake his head and carry on looking up. And I thought, I saw him from the side, and I thought, okay, I've heard a lot of questions in 11 years, but this he's brewing something really nasty. He's going to hit me with a real nasty curveball here. I was just waiting for it. And at one stage, he put his hand up like this, and I went, okay, here it comes. Yeah, what is it? And he said, I'm a mathematician, a statistician, and I've been putting the numbers in, I've been working on the numbers, and it's just amazing. He says, 3 hours a week in a community of 5,000 people, in a contributionist system, 3 hours a week, and the amount you produce in 1 year is equivalent to 31 years of capitalism working 8 hours a day.
Wow.
That's the number he threw out at us.
Can you say that again, because I want to write that?
Yes. So, living in this community of working 3 hours a week collectively together, the amount we create in 1 year working 3 hours a week is equivalent to 31 years of working 8 hours a day in a capitalist model. It just shows you how incredibly powerful this simple plan of action is. And we've been so brainwashed for so long with this competition thing and corporations and competition. Competition is good. Without competition, there'd be no progress. There'd be no invention. All that crap that's been shoved down our throats. That's what we need to get over. Only through cooperation and collaboration will we find this kind of abundance. And wait, it gets a lot better. This is just the teaser, people. It never stops getting better. This is the really good news. But it does require the most important thing, and one of the most difficult things that all of us have to face, and that is working together. Because we've been so divided and so separated. Working together in collaboration is one of the most difficult things for us to achieve, and this is why it's been structured to use one of the most powerful tools of division and control, electricity, to unite the people, to almost force the people to work together. You say, you can have free electricity, but you've got to give us 3 hours a week. In the beginning, there might still be people that say, well, I'm not going to give you 3 hours a week. It's too much. What is a slave labor? Okay. How long do you think the people that sit on the fence will sit on the fence and carry on working 8 hours a day in their stinking job while they see all their other friends working 3 hours a week, getting free electricity, probably no rent, because this is our town now, we decide what to do with our town, free food, free this, free everything that we do in our community projects, and you still working 8 hours a day, you have to pay for electricity, you have to pay for everything else that all the others are getting for free. How long do you think you're going to sit on the fence? Not very long. And this is how quickly and simply things can change. So the next thing we do, and this is where it really you really start to see how we mess with the capitalist system. We invite all the inventors, the healers, the scientists, the teachers, the computer geeks into our town. Me as the mayor will go out and say, I want all the great inventors and scientists who come to my town. We will give you everything you need to create a free energy device. Tell me what you need. We'll put it together for you. We'll give you the best lab imaginable. All the healers in the world. Come, if you can cure all disease, we want you in our hospital. How long do you think it'll take for the healers that know how to cure cancer and all the other diseases? How long do you think it'll take them to come to our town? Days? A week? They'll be there within days, because all of these people, whether they're inventors and scientists, are creative souls. They want to share their innovation, their knowledge, their creation. They want to share it with the world. They don't want some corporation to buy it and pay them off and hide it. They want people to benefit from their brilliance. They'll be with us in a matter of days and weeks. We'll have free energy devices coming out of our ears. We'll be curing all kinds of disease. We'll be regrowing limbs and organs. We'll be doing things in our hospital that are unimaginable to us today, because all of it has already happened and is possible. How long do you think it'll take our engineers to make cars that run on electric motors? We already have free electricity. We're going to have all that technology. We'll be driving electric cars in our town within weeks. No more petrol. How long will it take those same engineers to develop levitation technology from those vehicles? Weeks. All that technology already exists. What do you think is going to happen to our little hospital once we've cured the first multimillionaire of cancer? Every multimillionaire with disease is going to become our fiercest protector. No one is going to touch our little hospital. So what happens is suddenly, and maybe a army general's wife is dying of cancer, and she comes to be cured in our hospital. What do you think that army general is going to do? Right? We'll get protection from the most weirdest places that we can't imagine right now, because we're doing the right thing that resonates with everyone and helps everyone. How long do you think it's going to take a bunch of computer geeks that come to our town, that get given everything they need, to create a bunch of supercomputers? I asked this question in Seattle last year. Guess what the answer was? Because there were a bunch of computer geeks in the audience. The answer, they laughed, actually laughed. They said, no, a supercomputer has already been invented and built, so it's going to take no time. The only reason the supercomputer hasn't been released is the same reason that free energy devices haven't been released, that cures for all disease haven't been released, because it's not good for business, and it'll collapse the multi-trillion-dollar computer industry around the world. How long do you think it's going to take our telecommunications scientists to create a way to communicate for us to communicate without cell phone towers? Weeks. Where the earth is used as a resonator, and everyone has their own little device, without EMF or low frequencies and radio frequencies that fry our brains. And you can phone anyone anywhere, at any time, for free. All of these things are possible because they've been done before, and all these brilliant minds are out there that are capable of doing it. We, as the newly elected municipal and political authority, will invite all these people into our town. What will happen in our town is that an unimaginable and unprecedented explosion of creation, from the arts and culture to the science and technology and healing, that becomes unstoppable. And you must just let your mind run wild. Set your mind free as to what the possibilities are. So, because it's not good for business, supercomputers have not been released. What are we going to be doing in Watervalboven? We're going to be building and selling supercomputers. How many supercomputers do you think we're going to sell? I don't know, 1,000 a week? 100,000 a month? I don't know. How big do we want to build the factory? What I'm trying to show you is that the amount of money that can flow into our little tiny little town is unimaginable. One of our community projects that I forgot to mention is a fish farm, for example. Our fish farm can breed 1 million fish a month at 10 pounds per fish per month. It's 10 million pounds a month. That little fish farm brings us more than 3 times as much money as we get from government. But we've started 30 community projects. If one community project gives us 10 million pounds a month, 30 community projects are going to give us a lot of money. We're going to be making so much money for our little town through our community projects, we can't imagine it today because we're still trapped in a capitalist way of thinking and operating. So our entire reality changes. The amount of money that comes in is so much that I expect, just because of defiance and trying to show the world that we don't need money, we need people, we need each other. Every week we make a big bonfire out of a huge pile of money and set it on fire and put it on YouTube and show everyone, look, see, money burns, we don't need it. Look how much stuff, we all live for free, we got everything for free. And we're showing you that we don't need money because we're doing everything together for free. So the next interesting thing is that there are 168 hours in a week. You work for 3 hours a week to get all the stuff for free. What are you going to do with the rest of the time? That becomes a big problem.
Take a holiday.
You already are on holiday.
Do what you love.
Do what you love. Exactly. So all of us are instantly going to be drawn to the things we love to do. But most of the things we love to do are already part of the community projects. Some of us love science and technology, so those people will be drawn to the science and technology. Some of us love chemistry and material sciences, so we're going to be knocking on the door of the material science laboratories and say, please let me in, 3 hours a week is not enough for me, I want to be here 24 hours a day. Do you think that the people that love to work with horses and be with horses, 3 hours a week is enough for them? No, they want to sleep with the horses, they want to be with them all the time. So what I'm telling you is that each and every one of us over and above the 3 hours a week will be drawn to what we naturally want to do and want to spend all our time there because that's what drives us, and suddenly it becomes your way of life. And once you get tired of the horses and you decide that now you want to go and save butterflies, that's when you can do what you choose to do, and you'll always get the full support of the community. So what that relates to is that there's a rapid explosion of consciousness. And this spreads throughout not just our community, but all our neighboring communities. I don't need to tell you, at the moment we win an election in one little town, and I implement this philosophy and this plan of action as a mayor, how long do you think that the rest of the world will take before they know this?
Well,
We live in a global community, in a global village, people. Within 24, 48 hours, people all over the world will know this. And they will want the same thing once they see what we're about to implement. I don't have to go and talk to the neighboring mayors of around the town where I live. I don't have to say a word to the mayors around me. They will know. And they will also know that the clock has begun ticking for them to implement the change. We don't have to convince them, try and explain anything to them. They will know that they have to change into the system that we're implementing. Otherwise, their time is up. And this is how powerful this simple plan of action is. 165 hours a week. We'll have much more than 3 times productivity. The scientists will be drawn to the science labs, and they'll want to devote their lives there. The people with horses will be drawn to the horses, and so it goes. 3 times productivity suddenly becomes 300 times productivity, because that's where we will be doing spending all our time. And it just gets better and better. Everything that we choose to do in our spare time becomes a community project. Whether you're a painter or a musician or a sculptor, sooner or later, everything you do ultimately benefits the whole community. You're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the entire community. And that's how simple this system is. Now, how do we attract the existing farmers, businesses, factories? This is where you really start to see how incredibly inclusive this simple system is. It never ever excludes anyone, always invites everyone, and always embraces everyone in the system to the best of, for the best benefit of themselves and the entire community. So let me give you another example here. There's a wooden door and window factory in my town. They need to participate. So what do I do as a mayor? I go to the owner of the factory and I say to him, turn your factory into a community project. And he's going to say what to me? Why? What's in it for me? Because that's what people do in a capitalist model. And the answer that I give him is the following. You already know what I'm going to tell him, right? Free electricity, no rent, free labor, free wood from our wood factory, which is a community project, so your components are free. Free glue, because it comes from our chemistry lab, and the glue is non-toxic, biodegradable, and 1,000 times stronger than the glue you're paying a fortune for. And free everything else you need for your factory. Plus, I'm going to pay you £50,000 a month to turn your factory into a community project. And on top of that, you can retain 1/3 of the profits of the factory for yourself, and 2/3 go back to the community. What do you say? What would you say?
I'd say yeah.
Well, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It is a no-brainer, and I can tell you what the standard answer has been to me from farmers and factory owners. When can we start? It's that simple. But let's assume that this is a really ignorant SOB, arrogant individual who just does not want to play ball with the rest of the community. And he says, no, screw you, I'm not interested. Well, unfortunately, we'll then have to start our own wooden door and window factory. And what is the consequence going to be for this particular individual? He's going to go out of business. And this is where the miracle happens. You realize how completely embracing the system is. In a capitalist model, that would be devastating for this particular individual. He would lose his job, he would lose his business, he would lose his home. His factory workers would lose their jobs, they'd end up on the street, but not here. Even as arrogant as this person may be, everyone in that factory will be embraced and held by the community. And he might end up working as the master craftsman in that workshop. And he's not going to end up on the street. He's not going to lose anything. He's still going to be a member of the community as long as he contributes his 3 hours a week. That's how incredibly forgiving and embracing the system is. It never ever excludes anyone to anyone's detriment. So this is what I need you to embrace. And we get to the philosophy that I've been referring to in the book, called the minority rule principle. And this really shakes up capitalists. Like, they can't deal with this. They can't understand this. It just doesn't make any sense. What you're going to tell everyone what to do? And I say, yes, I'm going to tell everyone what to do. And this is how it works. every community consists of an infinite number of minority groups. Those that look after the butterflies and the bees and the cleanliness of the water or the air, or the worms in the soil, or the acidity of the soil, or the stray animals and the herd horses, or the lizards and whatever. They're these minority groups that do incredible work that are completely ignored, underpaid, undervalued in a capitalist system. They never have enough time, never have enough resources, never have enough support from the government or the municipality. Well, in our town, in our community, all these minority groups that perform critical functions for our communities will not only have the support of the community, but they'll have everything they need, all the tools, technology, vehicles, whatever it is they need, they'll have to the best possible quality and ability that we can deliver. So what in essence happens is that the number of these minority groups that perform these functions will mushroom, and we'll find new minority groups and people that do incredible things in our communities that they can't do today because there's never enough money. So constantly there'll be these minority groups that grow and grow. And so it is very obvious to see that our society is actually guided and driven by minority groups, not majority groups. There's only one majority, but there are an infinite number of minority groups. So it's very obvious for us to realize that we're a minority-driven society because money doesn't control things anymore. Suddenly it is a lot easier to comprehend how this minority-driven society functions. It is the diversity out of unity that we're witnessing. Infinite diversity out of unity. Infinite number of minority groups that we can keep creating that perform very critical functions in the body of our community, like the organs in our body. And then we get to the end of this good news, because at the end of every month or whatever, we are now creating so much stuff. So much, everything that we do is because we are so passionate, we're so creative, we're just creating and creating, and we can't always sell everything. So what are we going to do with all the extra stuff? So we put it into this big warehouse. I call it the Ubuntu warehouse. Think of it as a giant Walmart, but it's our warehouse. Everything in there belongs to us. Everything that goes in there was created, built, invented, whatever, by us. It doesn't belong to anyone. We don't owe anyone any money on it. No one can ever come and take the stuff away. What this does is these Ubuntu warehouses are there for us to go and take whatever we need as we need it. Remember that we choose what we allocate to ourselves in our town. So we're very generous with our allocation to ourselves, because we can be. And if you need a new this or computer, or you're tired of your old desk or whatever, you go in there and you change it, take a new one, and you go in there and you give them your Ubuntu card. And you swipe it and you're entitled to whatever it is that we've allocated to ourselves. The Ubuntu card is not something that becomes a barrier to entry. It's just a protection mechanism so that others don't come and abuse the system and pull up with a truck and just load it with our stuff and drive off. So it's really just to protect ourselves so that we benefit from what we've created for ourselves. Everything else in that Ubuntu warehouse is available for very, very cheap to everyone else. It continues to destroy the capitalist model until it's been completely destroyed, and all the neighboring towns and communities have adopted our model, at which point all that stuff in there is available to them, just like all the stuff in their warehouses is available to us. See how this evolves. And in the beginning it's to be sold, eventually it's to be shared. Not to be traded or exchanged, it's just to be available, because we can. So the moment we do this, what have we done? This is really the highlight and the apex of this entire presentation and the plan of action. The moment we've set up these Ubuntu warehouses, created an Ubuntu card, we've done three incredibly powerful things. First of all, we've created a new supply of everything we do. Services, products, technology, everything. A new supply chain that belongs to us. Doesn't belong to any corporation or government or anyone else. All of it belongs to us. Secondly, we've created a new form of currency in the form of our Ubuntu card that has no money. It doesn't work with money. Money doesn't exist. It's a form of currency that allows us access to anything we can imagine that we've created and beyond. And even more importantly, that card allows us the freedom to travel and live wherever we choose. That Ubuntu card. What do I mean by that? This is what I mean. You decide that you're tired of living in Belfast and you want to go visit in your Ubuntu community in Belfast, and you want to go visit your friend in Cape Town. So you take all that money. Oh, did I forget to mention that how we distribute the money that comes in? I did forget to mention that. The money that comes in from all the community projects. This is really important. The 3/3. The 1/3 that comes in is used to maintain and upgrade the existing projects. The next third is used to keep creating new projects, so that we keep creating new projects that feed the existing projects, because we need components and things like that. And the third of the money that comes in is distributed to the people in our community. So every month you're getting money distributed to you that you don't need to use. So your bank account keeps growing and growing with money, and you don't have to use it for anything. And this is where you start to realize very quickly that money is completely useless. You don't need it. But you have more and more of it every month. So what happens eventually is that you've got this bank account that's just filled with all this money. And you've got your Ubuntu warehouse and your Ubuntu card, and you want to go visit your buddy in Cape Town. So you go to the airport and you buy yourself a first class ticket, because you've got all this money and you don't know what else to use it on. And you see some nice people at the airport and they're going somewhere and you see they're struggling. So you buy them first class tickets as well, because you just, you have so much money you don't know what to do with it. And then you jump on the plane and you fly to Cape Town, and you get off at the airport and you go to the car rental company and you rent the most expensive car they have, the most elaborate expensive car, because you need to use your money on something. You jump in the car and you drive 2 hours to a little town called Bredasdorp, which is the Ubuntu community there. And you arrive there and you give them your card, and they swipe your card. They say, "Hello, Michael, welcome to Bredasdorp Ubuntu community. What do you do?" And I say, "Well, I'm a material scientist." And they say, "Oh, fantastic, because we don't have a material scientist in our community, so this is going to be very exciting. Would you need a lab, or what can we help you with?" And I say, "Well, I probably need a lab." Or I say, "Fantastic. Well, we're going to have a meeting with the Council of Elders tomorrow, and we'll start putting a lab together for you. And by the way, on Thursday afternoon for your 3-hour-a-week community work, please can you go help the bakery, because we have to bake this week 10,000 croissants for our neighboring town that can't bake enough, so they've got a special function. We're going to need to provide them with croissants. They're going to need help at the bakery. So 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon, bakery, your 3 hours a week. Thank you very much. Now, where would you like to stay? Do you prefer the beach or up on the mountain?" And I go, "I'm tired of the beach and island. Let me go and live up the mountain." So, and they say, "Great. Well, here's some address. Here's the address. We got some beautiful chalets up in the mountain. Go find one that you like, and welcome to the community." That's it. That's how simple it is. How you can move from one Ubuntu community to another, and it should never be any more complicated than that. Never any fear of being kicked out of your home. Never any fear of not having enough food or healthcare or technology or anything you need. If you feel like you want to travel, that's what you do. You just go somewhere else and you contribute towards that community. And everything else just becomes automatic, as we've just been through here. So, what happens to industry, manufacturing and mining? I don't know, you tell me. Are we going to need the same materials we need today? Are we going to be mining coal? What do we need coal for? Dead, finished. No more coal mines. They'll shut down on their own, because people just won't work in the coal mines. Are we going to need iron and chrome and metals and nickel and all that? Why? What do we use it for? For technology that is archaic? For implements that we don't need? How long will it take our material scientists to create a new material that is 10,000 times stronger than steel and 100 times lighter, and we can create it at will? It's probably already created. So everything in our reality changes. Where we live, how we travel, what we travel in, what we eat, how we grow our food. Everything in our reality changes. The materials we use, the clothes we wear, what the clothes are made of, the technology we use, everything changes, people. The moment we take money out of the system. That's the spectacular thing. All for the better. No more desecrating of our planet. All this comes to an end. And this is it's just disgusting when I see this. No more pollution. No more factories like this. We don't need it. This will also spark a rapid cleanup by environmental scientists. So what I expect, there'll be a huge activation of people that have been dying to do this kind of work, but they're just not allowed to. They're prevented from doing that. And like I said, our needs for materials will change completely. Everything that is done in an Ubuntu world is recyclable, renewable, and reusable. And everything is custom made for me and for you. Everything you need, from your clothes, your shoes, the furniture in your house, everything is custom made. So the idea or the thought of me breaking into your house to steal something from you is so far removed from my reality. First of all, because I don't need any money. And why would I want to steal something that I have myself? Everything, all the crime and the ugly aspects of our society just vanish from our reality overnight. And we start to create our own paradise overnight. This is all possible. And it can happen so much quicker than we can imagine. And I'd really like you to leave here with that thought in mind and that vision and that manifestation, so we keep co-creating this and keep sharing this, so that we resonate this image, that resonate this reality with everyone that we come into contact with. Because remember, you don't even have to say this. They can feel your thoughts, they can feel your resonance, they can feel your confidence and your deep-seated knowledge. Because once this is in your heart, no one can ever remove this. And you now know that it's possible. And it's a lot simpler and a lot easier than we can ever imagine. All we have to do is start working together. Start cooperating. And it starts with one little town. Anywhere in the world. The South African elections on the 2nd of August, I believe that we will win one small little town, one municipality somewhere. I hope that it happens in Ireland. I hope that the Ubuntu movement in Ireland becomes strong, becomes active, sets up its own political party here, and takes it to the elections the next time around, and wins one little town in Ireland. It might just start in Ireland. It might start in the USA, or in Australia, or in Germany, or in Italy. It doesn't matter where it starts. It's just one little town that plants that first seed, that inspires and infects the rest of the world. So what can you do from here? Join the Ubuntu movement online. First of all, go to ubuntuplanet.org. Join the global connector there. Join it under Ireland. And start sharing your ideas, your philosophies. Set up community projects. Get involved with the Ubuntu movement in Ireland. And start being active. Set up meetup groups in your area. And join the core Ubuntu group here once it's established. And the final thing is, vote Ubuntu in the next elections when the party is established. My main objective to come to Europe and do these presentations was to leave Europe and leave behind a core group of Ubuntu members that drive the movement forward in each country. And if you would like to participate, if you feel that you would like to do that and be involved in the Ubuntu movement in Ireland, stay behind after this. Let's have a little chat, and let's start bringing the people in to establish this core group. Start getting the political party registered and start moving forward. It can happen so quickly, can take the world by surprise. And on that note, thank you very much. Do you still have questions about who's going to shovel the crap, and I want 50 Ferraris and 20 mansions, and why should I do something I don't want to do, and all those other silly questions that are completely out of place? Hopefully by now you realize it's just all fear-driven questions. You know, are we going back to the Dark Ages if we have no money? Really? Have you answered all those questions that you saw, those 13 frequently asked questions? I don't have to answer any of those for you by now. No. Exactly. I told you so. I told you you'd be able to answer all these questions.
One in particular I always got was about the obviously the bankers and the corporations, the CEOs. You know, we're obviously. I know the answer to that now after this year. Just your talk, Michael. Basically, we're going to take them in, kicking and screaming. So that's the only way we're going to get them to change.
Yeah.
Because we've got a lot of greedy people in this world, only because of the system. And the only thing we can do is take them in, kicking and screaming, do the change, and they'll just have to follow suit with it.
Exactly. We don't need to worry about them. Well, just come back to this thought. You're living in our town now. You're getting all this money every month paid to you in cash. You're working 3 hours a week. You got everything for free. You're fulfilling your dreams. You're doing what you want. You're creating. You live in paradise. You have the ultimate, most perfect life. Are you going to keep your job in a coal mine? Of course not. Are you going to keep your job in some stinking factory canning food or something? Of course not. What's going to happen to all those places? They're going to shut down. Not because we're going to force them or picket or riot or whatever. They're just going to shut down because no one's going to work there anymore. Can you see what we've done here? We're not resisting anyone. We're not picketing. We're not forcing anyone to do anything. We're just creating a new alternative way forward. It's that simple, people. It boggles the freaking mind.
Yeah.
And we've been so blind to seeing it because we believe in competition instead of cooperation. It's that one little twist.
Can I say, Michael, that
Yes.
it's not a given that some of the top CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies are not thinking this way. There's the system that they're enveloped in,
Yes.
shareholders and money is actually preventing them from being able to implement this. But there are many, many people at those levels that are actually wanting something different and wanting someone to show them a new way.
Yeah. So, listen, thank you very much for coming to listen. It's a great honor that people actually want to come listen to this crazy guy. And
Real crazy people.
exactly, it takes crazy people to listen to a crazy guy.
Can I ask you a question? Just one.
Yeah, any questions? If there are any questions, please, this is why I'm here.
It's just because the system is corrupt, you know, and the counting of votes and stuff like
Yes.
that is not real.
Yes.
And how do you get in that? And then they can stop us.
Oh, good question. Thanks for bringing that up, because a lot of people don't get that. On a national level, the voting is rigged. It's impossible to control it. On a local level, the voting takes place in little town halls, in little school halls, where people count the votes, our people count the votes, and the results are announced right there at the voting station. And we have our observers there to make sure that nobody cheats. It's very difficult to cheat the counts at a local municipal level. Okay, that's why it is such a simple plan. It's like the ant bringing down the elephant, you know.
Yes. Thank you.
That's a start up. Are you aware that the local elections are coming up for Northern Ireland?
For Ireland, for Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland?
I'm not aware of that. So remember, Northern Ireland, UK, we have the Ubuntu Party is registered already, so we can stand. In Northern Ireland, we can stand as the Ubuntu Party already, of course. Yeah. So we're talking about two things here. The Irish Republic here, very important that we establish an Ubuntu Party there. Northern Ireland, the Ubuntu Party is already established under UK. But, I mean, I'd love to see a party established in Ireland, in the Republic. Because that's critical. Because, you know, the Irish Republic has got a very powerful influence around the world. And the Irish people all over the world. And I think it's really important that it's a very powerful message from a small group of fiery people. Yeah.
How do you start the party?
I don't know how you start the party. This is why we need, for those that want to be involved and want to get involved, let's have a chat in the bar. I'm ready to drink my whiskey now, and real Irish whiskey.
Michael, what's next for people here? Is there a central place where people can meet and group together on Facebook or groups? Or
Well, on Ubuntu Planet, that's the one. Ubuntu Planet. I think there's already Ireland. Go to ubuntuplanet.org. Find the Ireland Circle on the Global Connector. I think there's one already. sign up so that you can start communicating. It's a closed communication system. You can share knowledge, information, your community projects, whatever you want. You can, for example, say, I'm starting a homeschooling thing. I need desks, chairs, I need potatoes on Friday, I need this, and put it out there. And people say, hey, I've got this for you, I've got that for you. So it's a very powerful communication and sharing tool. It's taken me many years to get this far, to get it done. And it was a friend of Ray's, Matt, that actually gave us the system of just more than a month ago, and it's amazing how quickly it's growing. It's a global platform where people can share and connect.
Yeah, it's actually quite good. I've been on I'm setting
Just a thought. Say you won a municipality and you get your small town set up. Now, the small town has a few resources. Maybe they have a small forest. They might have a couple of garages, car garages, that sort of thing. Now, how would you interact with the system that's already in place? Now, if someone was to come into your town to buy goods at a reduced price, you really, I guess, for resources and stuff. Say you live in somewhere where there isn't necessarily any forests for your timber and that sort of stuff. Obviously, I get that everyone in that community would have a skill set. How do you then interact with the outside communities still? I mean, I guess you could probably set up deals with people.
No, I think let's just don't complicate things. Remember that at the moment, whatever town starts to implement this, we can only do what the environment allows us to do. Sure. Grow the kind of food we can, or whatever. It might be great for certain technology or certain foods or whatever. So that's what we're going to be restricted to. And that's what we'll do to the best of our ability. Yeah. But every community can build computers. Every community can do healing in a hospital. Every community can do some of the basic things. So how much money do you think a hospital will make for a little town? I would say, do you have any idea how big tourism, medical tourism is in the world? It's $1 trillion industry around the world. I know from South Africa, because we got one of the #1 destinations. People come from Ireland, from UK, from all over Europe, come to South Africa to the private clinics to have their surgery and operations done, because it's a lot cheaper for them. So medical tourism is huge. Our little hospital will be making $1 billion a year from a little hospital, because we provide cures for all disease and free cures for all our people. So it's free to our people, and we charge a little bit to outsiders. What I'm saying is that we need to implement whatever we can in the town and the community. The interaction with the outside world is restricted to how quickly they adopt to the same model and the same system. So in the beginning, we have to export and sell everything we do.
And what currency would you be using?
Whatever currency is used. Okay, two other important things. We don't want to create any more alternative currencies, because that just creates problems. We stop creating problems for ourselves. Use what's there, right? Take the route of least resistance, always, right? The other thing people do, I get emails all the time. Oh, I've got 1,000 acres in Texas. I want to start an Ubuntu community. What must I do? Stop. Don't do it. Most of the intentional communities that have been started fail. They fail because they're still driven by capitalism, by money and people's individual ego and greed. Unfortunately, all of them fail after several years. People start arguing, bickering. Well, I built that, and I'll put in these pipes and all this. They don't work because they're still driven by capitalism. And why would you want to start a new intentional community on a virgin piece of land, having to build houses, put in roads, piping, electricity, plumbing, all the stuff, when there are already an infinite number of existing communities, little towns and villages with all the infrastructure there? So one of the objectives as well, or the plans of action, is to go after existing mayors of existing towns, right? Finding the conscious mayors that want to actually do good for their communities. This is another approach. We don't even need to get to the elections. We just need to find the mayors that want to actually do something, give them the good news, and let them convert to our way of thinking. That means you don't even need to go to an election, and just suddenly, tomorrow we can start this without anyone even realizing that it's going on. So it's such a simple and powerful idea. It can catch on in the most unexpected place overnight.
Well, mayors in Ireland, for example, wouldn't have the same powers as mayors.
Yes. So it would obviously be a different level of authority that would implement that. So I'm using the word mayor in a sort of global sense where, you know, in South Africa, the mayor runs the municipality. In South Africa, for example, each municipality consists of several towns, anything between 2 to 10 or 12 towns. And the mayor is the mayor of that whole municipality, and all the towns fall under the mayor. Now, in the USA, between the mayor and the sheriff, they pretty much, the buck stops with them. It's, yeah. So I'm not sure how it is here. So the people here need to figure out where that authority and the power lies and make sure that's where we implement the control in Ireland. The council. So it'll be the head of the council, the council chairman or whatever. Yeah.
Michael, I'm sure it's you that needs to lead by example, though. You need to step up and come there and put this in place so we can understand how it operates.
We're trying to do that. But it might not end up being me. It might end up being someone else. Yeah.
But you're the one who has the passion and the vision and, the belief and everything.
Yeah.
It's you that needs to do that.
Yeah, but I'm not the only one anymore. There are thousands of people with the same passion, same vision, and more and more people are becoming as vocal as I am. So and that's good, because I'm tired of being the lone voice.
Have you tried to do it to actually become mayor of a small municipality?
Oh yeah, I'm doing the best I can. Yeah, and this is why the local elections in South Africa now, the 2nd of August. That's where we now. I'm going to be heading for that.
In the past years, have you evidence of your own kind of process?
Oh no, this has never happened before. No, this is the question. Oh well, is there another community like this anyway? No, there isn't. Because if there was, it'd already be changing the world. That's simple. Okay, so let me draw another important distinction that I didn't bring up. Different groups, different dynamics. I forget to say certain things. The difference between self-sustained communities and communities of abundance. There's an infinite difference. There are many self-sustained communities. There's the famous one in Scotland, Findhorn, Damanhur. There's the one on the east coast next to Big Sur in California. Forget what it's called, and so forth. There are many of these. There are all these kibbutzes in Israel. These are all self-sustained communities. We're not creating self-sustained communities. We don't want to hang on, sustain ourselves for life. We want to create communities of infinite abundance through which energy flows. A self-sustained community is a closed community. There's no movement of energy through it. A self-sustained community is just a bigger version of me, me, me. Now it's us, us, us. Don't come in, you're not invited, you need this or that. And that's not what we're doing. We're doing completely the opposite. Once this starts, it is unstoppable. And I hope that you can see that. Yeah. It's very difficult to stop this. Once I become the mayor or the council chairman of such a community, what is the government going to do to stop me? There's very little they can do. They can say, we must have another election. I'm just going to get more votes the next time around. Because then people see that we've already started implementing the stuff and then we're not just blowing hot air. Sorry? The what? They can prop me off and that's going to make it even worse. So basically what I'm telling you is that the deal is done. It's over. It's finished. The fact that you know this and 100,000, 200,000, 1 million people around the world know it because they've watched the workshops on YouTube. It's finished. It's done. We have won the game already. And I know in the future timeline that we've won the game already, for those of you that know what I'm talking about. We're just now doing the work that in the future is going to deliver what we've already created. That's a real paradox.
This is the thing about consciousness, Michael, is that once someone does it, someone else somewhere is actually doing it.
Yes.
And once you've done it once, it becomes ever easier to do.
Yeah. So that's... Thank you for bringing that up. And then to just add to that as well is please, whatever you do, is don't create hurdles and problems for yourselves. Because our natural thing is, and I see it all the time, and I have to stop people all the time. Yeah, but what if this, and what if they do that, and what if that? I say, stop. What are you doing? It's like, why are you creating problems? We've got a path. We're going. Stop putting hurdles and obstacles in your path. You're the one doing it. No one else is doing it. You create. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Good. Now let's get on. Let's get out there, create a group, start the discussion, register the party, send out the emails, go and picket, and not picket, go and campaign, go put our banners up, show people our plan of action, get to the elections, win the vote, bingo. That's how I see it. That's what I've been doing. I wake up every morning and I know that's what I have to do.
It doesn't have to be complicated.
It doesn't have to be. The moment it becomes complicated, we're doing something wrong. So, let's go and have some whiskey. Thanks, everyone.